is the focus more so than the special stages. It would add 20 meaningless minutes to the run, and in the case of Knuckles, the first stage would actually be a real bitch. So, so I'm really happy that I do it this way. With that out of the way, let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so this is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. What I'm doing here is I'm actually going to collect every single large ring in the game. This is not intended to be possible. The large rings are what you go into the special stages with. If you have already got all of them, they give you 50 rings and allow you to transform immediately into the super or hyper deity of your choice.
Yeah, basically.
Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'm Alec K47. I'm also here to help commentate. I don't know nearly as much about this category as Mike, but I do run the game as Sonic, so I have some knowledge at least. Yeah, first,
no, go on.
Pretty self-explanatory. It's actually mostly normal gameplay until the second act of Angel Island, and there are 2 big rings in each section of Angel Island. The rub is that the ones in Act 2 are both in Sonic's section. So, he has to complete this boss's Knuckles. If you go up to the boss area in Sonic's area, then...
the boss actually spawns down here anyway, and you can't hit it.
Yep, it's kind of fun. Anyway. Alright, I'll actually move my mic closer. That's something I can do without too much difficulty here.
Okay, so the game now has an interesting issue. So that area that I was in after the mini boss set the world on fire, that actually counts as Act 2 by the game. So what I'm now going to do is I need to go into a bonus stage in order to revert the level boundaries back to that. So if I now go back to... Oh, that was a bad idea. If I now go back to the start of the stage, and I really need to make sure I don't lose my rings here.
Yeah, he wants to be able to transform into Hyper Knuckles. It makes it a bit harder for him to die later, which is actually really important. But it saves a little bit more time overall to be Hyper just because of the fast movement.
So as you can see, I can now go back into Act 1. Which is really weird. Yeah, okay, so this is how you get up into Sonic's section. You need to do a very precise jump from there onto the top of the spikes, and that is much more difficult if you don't have super hyper, because A, you'll hit the spikes all the time, and B, the acceleration away from the wall is much worse.
Yeah, the acceleration is the main reason, because you have to be much closer if you're not hyper to have enough speed, basically. Enough room to get over to where you need to go. Whereas if you're hyper, the extra acceleration means you don't have to be nearly as precise in the position.
Okay, so I have both of them now. If I were to go and try and complete the stage now, it wouldn't let me. If I were to try that, I would be very dead. So I now have to go back into Knuckles' route. That's not as simple as getting back to the start of the stage and going up through there, because you can't actually go back through the tube the other way. So I have to die instead. The most convenient place to die, unfortunately, is there. and even then it only works because you spin dash and then you jump at a specific time, which makes your hitbox larger, and then you get crushed and you die. And then that puts you back to the checkpoint you hit, which is back in Knuckles' area, which you need to be in to complete the stage.
Yeah, normally places like that, you don't really just... Either you're spinning or you're not able to get into it. That's how they programmed it. But they didn't necessarily anticipate you going the wrong way there and jumping, so you're able to get yourself crushed if you do that. You know, a boss fight here is completely standard. It's really tricky to time it as Knuckles, I've found, compared to Sonic. but you know, you just time it and you can juggle the boss like that. Easy.
Yeah, so if you're actually above either of the things that shoot fire, you'll get hit by it and you'll die. So you have to be on the right side of the left one when it comes out, and then after, I think it's 4 hits, you move over to the left so as to avoid the one that's on the right hand side.
The alternative is to just have a fire shield, but that's not as easily available as Knuckles is with Sonic.
Yes, Sonic has one right at the end of the stage. Knuckles' only one is right at the start of his area, and I would have skipped it anyway. Okay, so there's 2 in this stage. One's here. What? That's not what I want. Alright, let's go up this way instead.
Yeah. The lower route here through the water section is actually significantly slower.
It also locks you out from getting the second one.
Yeah. So it's very important that you go the top route. Even if you were just doing an all emeralds thing, you probably would skip that ring just because of the new game all emeralds run. You'd probably skip that one. So you would be able to get the second one that you just entered here. Now the boss fight. This boss fight, no matter what you do, is going to be long. Even as Hyper.
There's no real good way to do it, unfortunately.
Well, there's a good way to attempt to do it, but in practice it's much more complicated. Fortunately, as Hyper, it is still significantly easier than, well...
I'm gonna ramp your volume up, Alec, because people can't hear you.
Yeah, go right ahead. I already did what I could, moving the mic closer to myself.
Alright, so at the bottom there, where that checkpoint is 3 seconds in, with Sonic you can actually get yourself pushed into the ground there, and you can skip half the stage, because there are no... there's no large rings in the first half of the stage. With Knuckles, you can't actually get stuck in the floor there. So...
You almost killed yourself there, I saw. Came very, very close to doing the glide clip into the crush deck.
Alright. I wasn't expecting Hyper Knuckles there. There are some levels where I forget. Anyway, okay, so the first one is down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in here.
Yeah, one of the quirks about the game is that Sonic
this isn't gonna work.
can transform when he has a shield or when he's invincible, but Knuckles can.
That also what it also means is that if can I grab that? Yes. It also means that if you have invincibility, the game treats that as a shield. So if you're invincible with Sonic, you can. Where do I need to go? No, that's all right. I got it. So when you're invincible with Sonic, you can't transform, but with Knuckles, you can.
Yeah. And it looks like there's about a 6 to 7 second delay on the RTMP server, which I actually got to work. Don't ask me how. I'm the first commentator who had it work. Has it working? But it beats watching the screen feed because then there's double delay.
Indeed. Alright. Normally, with this boss, you would stand in a really specific position and you just have to jump around the propeller and get on the boss. I'm Hyper at the moment. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, normally if you got sucked up there or jumped up there, you would get hit by the propellers, but since you're Hyper, you can just sit in the boxes, the hitbox of the boss and get hits on the first frame possible every single time. Not that it's hard to get the precise position and do a normal kill, but that's easier and faster.
Indeed. Now, Marble Garden 1 has the most large rings in the game. It has 8 all by itself. So, this stage takes a little while, but it's worth it.
It also has some really interesting tricks and tech to it. The first one is right here. I'm sure he's probably collecting it as I'm speaking, but I'm seeing him approaching it. And, yeah. The next part, there's one that's actually really close to access, and you would normally go right past it in Knuckles' route. But it's faster overall to go this other way and get the one that we got a few seconds ago instead, because you'll end up passing by that other one that I just mentioned later.
This stage also has an interesting glitch that I've got to be very aware of. Oh, no, wait, this way. Nearly missed one.
So he just got the one that I mentioned earlier, and now, yeah, he had to drop down there because there's one at the bottom of the stage, basically, and he has to go down here to get it.
Chad is saying Alec is too quiet.
Yeah, I
agree.
turned him up.
Am I still too quiet? So,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, these jumps are kind of tricky because you
But
can't.
this is fun.
You can't jump into the top of the spikes, but you also with that second one you can't grab it properly. You can't climb onto the top the way you would on most corners. So you have to improvise a little bit.
Yeah, it's also harder to get a precise positioning with Hyper Knuckles because you climb so fast.
Which is a good thing most of the time.
The vast majority of the time, yes.
Alright, so that's 6. One up here makes 7. Oops.
So in a further effort to make myself louder, I am now
shit.
literally holding my mic in front of my face.
Okay, that's all 8 now. So you see a whole heap of different parts of the stage, which I think is really cool about this. It also really disincentivizes the more game-breaking glitches. Because, well, like, in any other run, I would now go here and skip the entirety of Marble Garden 2, but I can't do that because I've still got 3 rings to get.
Literally no volume change. Wow. Sorry, guys.
That's fine, I don't need that shield. Yeah, so the game has 77 large rings total, and some of them are supposed to be on paths exclusive to Sonic or Knuckles, or in a couple of cases, Tails, actually. None of them are actually exclusive, as I will go and prove over the next 45 minutes. Okay, so there's one up here that I think is meant to be a Tails exclusive, but so much for that. Don't ask me why that works. It just does.
Okay, testing something real quick.
Oh,
Is this
that's much louder. Shit.
Okay, so yeah, Discord decided to take my other mic, not in addition to all of its other weirdness. I'm just going to use this one. It's fine.
Well, that's okay. When I was doing my stream earlier, Discord decided to take my line as the audio rather than my microphone, so you're in good company.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had an issue a little while back where, which is easy to fix, where Discord decides that the default audio device is my second monitor, which is a TV. And it gets audio through HDMI. So if I turn the volume on there, it would play the audio. But I had to switch it back. And fortunately, since this last update, it started doing that by default instead of making me entirely restart the program. But it seems it has also done it with my microphone now, because I have a headset, and I also have a blue snowball, which is what I normally use and what I was trying to use, but I guess I just use my headset.
Alright then.
Yeah. Computer programs, they can be weird sometimes. Oh!
Yeah.
That was an interesting clip.
I've not seen that one before, which is impressive, because I've seen most things before by now, I think. Okay, going Knuckles' path here is really, really slow, so I'm going to clip into this spring instead, because there are no more large rings. I don't need to go a particular way anymore.
Yeah, there are actually a couple ways you can clip in there, but one doesn't work. Marble Garden 2, unlike Marble Garden 1, does not have vertical scrolling.
You also can't grab that wall.
Yes, yeah, so you wouldn't be able to do a screen wrap to get in there, deload the sprite, walk inside it, and then have it appear while you're already inside it. So basically using that spin dash and jump in a precise way
6
clips you in there.
Alright, I got 6 hits here, so I'm going to try and get 2 like that. Okay, that's Marble Garden done. Now, Carnival Night. Carnival Night, this stage actually takes place on 2 entirely different paths. They don't really cross at all. So there's 1 down at the end of Knuckles stage and 5 in Sonic's. Now I'm going to try and get Sonic's first.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting because the paths are actually very well separated. And as both characters,
3,
you have to do
4, 5, 6. No.
a little bit of interesting gameplay to get to the other one. It's a little bit trickier as Sonic, but as Knuckles, you still have to do this that you saw there.
3, 4, 5, 6. There. Ah, damn it.
Oh, you're still having trouble with it, I see, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
this is one of the more difficult ones. You have to very specifically time a ramp jump. You can't be too high either, because the anti-grab platforms will get you, as you might have seen. And that was that time I bailed out because I was scared from the last time. And I was too low to grab the wall.
yeah, as Sonic, to get into Knuckles' path, he has to actually have Tails lift him up and scroll the screen so that one of those little platforms that goes up and down, the barrels, is unloaded. Which means that he's able to lower Sonic into it, and Sonic just kind of clips down below it.
Ah, how did that not grab? That's rubbish.
Yeah, that was really close. That was probably a pixel or 2 off tops.
3, 4, 5, 6. There it is. Okay. Now, there's still a bit of luck once you actually get through as to whether the anti-gravity cycle is going to be nice to you, but that was. Okay, so now I'm going to get all 5 of Sonic's ones. Just need to think for a sec about the order. It's very important I don't hit a checkpoint, because after this I'm going to die and I'm going to go back into Knuckles section. So if I hit a checkpoint up here, I'm going to find it very difficult to get back.
Yeah, he would pretty much have to do a reset, honestly. That would probably be far, far quicker than anything else he could do. Because I'm sure it's possible to get back into Sonic's route, but any method that you could do would be
okay,
absolutely
so
ridiculous.
This is the one I got to be really careful of. There we go. And I got to be really careful here that I don't. Where is it? It's here. All right, just so that I don't fall in there and hit that checkpoint either. All right. So this is number 4. And then number 5 is here. And then, super conveniently, after that, there's this, which will crush you. And then that just puts me straight back to Knuckles' area. I just play the stage normally, grab the ring at the end. This is a really quick stage anyway.
Launch base isn't actually as tough as Knuckles as it is with Sonic. It's really interesting as Sonic because you have to get one in Knuckles' path and do some particular setups to get it.
That being said, Launch Base was the last stage that I figured out with Knuckles as well.
Yeah, the main thing in Launch Base, either way, is a ring or two, depending on the character, in Act 2. As Sonic, there's one particular one that's in Knuckles' path at the start-ish, and then there are two in Sonic's path at the start that Knuckles has trouble getting to. But there's a way to get it, get both of those as Knuckles. It just requires a lot of backtracking, and weird backtracking at that, but we'll get to that when he gets there.
So when you're hyper as well, and you latch onto a wall from a distance away, it shakes the screen, and that has a couple of interesting effects. So firstly, it kills every enemy on the screen. If you do that in Marble Garden, some really bad things can happen.
Yeah, especially if you kill one of those false spike enemies for whatever reason.
Yeah, if you kill the fake spikes, then you end up really screwing yourself over. And I've gone the wrong way. That's alright, I can fix it. Just go down here. Yeah, okay, we're back on path now. Yeah, for some reason, if you do that, it causes the... I could have got that. Causes the Marble Garden 2 boss, when the drill hits the ground, it causes it to crash the game. So we don't want that. Also, obviously, this is not where Knuckles is meant to go, but he can go here, and it makes the rest of it possible.
Yeah, normally Knuckles' path in Act 2 is really quick, and he would have been done.
Okay, I gotta be really careful where I land here. If I had landed in the wrong spot there, I would have died. This area is not supposed to handle Knuckles, so it doesn't handle it very well. If you move onto the anti-grav platforms from a glide, you kind of fall slightly into the ground when you land. And there are some areas there, actually, where the barrel is, I suppose, because that has to have the object that kills you. If you land there, then you pass slightly into the ground and touch those, and you die. And we don't want that.
Yeah. But as I was saying, Knuckles' path is normally a lot quicker in Act 2. But, amusingly enough, I didn't even know Knuckles had his own path for ages, because I'd always somehow play as in such a way that I would end up in Sonic's path as Knuckles as a kid.
Alright, so now the last area, depending on which way you come into it, will either let you go through the ramp like that or force you up. So this last one is probably the best hidden special ring in the game. You have to go through Sonic's path the first time and then change to Knuckles' path for the second one. And Knuckles has no boss. Alright, and then Ice Cap is pretty simple, and then we get into Launch Base. So I was talking about the hyper grabbing the wall. So there's another interesting thing about that. If you've hit a checkpoint and there are the special rings floating around, that hits on purpose, by the way, just so I can do that.
Yeah. If Knuckles hits that ice pillar early, then he breaks it. But what he wants to do is trigger it at a specific point just as he leaves the platform, basically, and that triggers slow push, which lets him do it. And you can skip Act 2 entirely with this, but he's obviously not doing that. It's
Yeah,
still the
I have
fastest
large
way
rings to collect, so I can't skip it. But the only 2 large rings in Act 1 are right there at the start, so I don't have to do anything else. But I have to make sure that I end in Knuckles' area, because the first of the large rings is here. So there's 3 in this stage. Obviously, this one in particular presents no impediment to Sonic either, because with how broken the collision is in Act 1, there's
yeah, it's very easy to get into Knuckles' path in Act 2 as Sonic. In fact, it's a little bit quicker if you're not doing the...
This Crusher can't
Act
kill you,
2
by the way.
I wonder if they tested that.
Suppose not. Okay, so that's 2, and the last one is right at the top here. And then we just beat the boss as normal.
Yeah, this boss is not hard, whether you're a hyper or not. But as hyper, it's incredibly simple.
Okay, so Launch Base is probably the most interesting stage. Act 1 is not really. There's a little bit of backtracking involved, but that's about it.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff that you have to do to get there.
Okay, so first things first. Okay, so now this this elevator here, with Sonic or Knuckles it'll take you down to this area, and with Tails it takes you up. And in that upper area there is a large ring. Now anyone can actually get up there. It's not too difficult to actually get up there, but I'm making it look hard though. Jeez. Let's do this instead. There we go.
So yeah, launch base is actually pretty different for each character, even Sonic versus Tails, which normally isn't the case. Usually if there's a big difference, it's Knuckles having different stuff than Sonic and Tails. But launch base in general has one of the more interesting vertical and horizontal, in the way they interact, designs of any stage in this game. Not to mention cool music, like pretty much all of them.
Alright, that's all 3. So there's only 3 in this stage. I could conceivably like die and go back to the start, and that would be and do the level wrap from there, and that would come out about even. But we're not going to do that. I don't want to die unless I have to, and there are a couple of stages where I have to. You saw it in Carnival Night.
Yeah, not to mention, if he did die and do the level wrap, even if it would come out about even, the fight, if you did the level wrap, would be trickier. Even though you're able to get the 50 rings, you have to get hit, as I recall, as Knuckles, in order to get, in order to get the level wrap, which makes the fight a lot trickier.
So it's a pretty free fight, and it lets me do something cool like this. Just to start it off. It's not really any quicker at this point to use the wall again.
Yeah, even the task fight to the untrained observer looks kind of slow. It's like, why does it take so long, even in a task? Well,
it's because those
of the way
bosses
the
actually
boss-
move away from you if you try and move up towards it.
Yeah, and it's a very tricky boss if you do the level wrap. Because you can get a couple rings, and especially as Knuckles, you definitely want to, because Knuckles doesn't have the insta-shield. But
Okay.
doing those bosses quickly without getting hit is really tricky, actually.
Okay, I'm going to not transform on purpose.
Yeah, he wants to be regular Knuckles. Like I was mentioning earlier, there are a couple big rings early in Sonic's path that he has to do some shenanigans to get back to as Knuckles. And he does not want to be hyper for those.
Missed that jump.
Yeah, I know that jump. That one's deceptively both easy and tricky. It's one of those ones where it's like, it feels intuitive, but it's...
Oh, that was so nearly your first go. Okay, so I now need to get back to the start. What I'm going to do here, this platform that I'm continually jumping on, even though you can see it fall all the way down to the ground, at some point around about where the bottom of that overhang is on the right, functionally it disappears. The block, the object that would hold you is no longer there. If you land at exactly the frame where that happens, you get the slope glitch, same as I got in Ice Cap. With that, I can work my way back through the stage. Because, as you can tell, the Sonic and Knuckles paths only converge here. So it's a hell of an effort to get back from here. Oh, no, it's too early.
Yeah, for those of you wondering, this is a frame-perfect trick that he's trying to get. He has to have the interaction happen right as the game unloads the sprites for this platform. So that's 1/60th of a second.
So now I just carry the... I want to get hit here, don't I? Yes. I have to think about that for a second, but I don't want to be hyper again. And it's so I can die once I've gotten these two and come back to that checkpoint there. Because much like in, say, Angel Island 2, there's no really convenient place to die. Here, I need to scroll the screen down so I go through that door there. It's actually very common that you get hit by the flamethrower as you do it, but didn't happen that time, which was nice.
Yeah, he has a lot of lives because this is a New Game Plus run. Doing these special stages is not the focus of the run. It also makes things a little bit tougher to do the run if it's not New Game Plus.
So again, I'm continually losing my rings on purpose here, so that I don't transform and can still set myself up with glides.
It's deceptively difficult to work your way backwards in a lot of these layouts just because they're not designed for you to go that way.
Ah, that's okay. I'll use this flamethrower instead. Alright. So that puts us back in the middle there, and that's conveniently very close to the next two large rings. So there's one here. Oh. And now I do want to transform. And the other one's up here. The reason I die is, you'll see in a sec, but there's a door that I had to open in order to get to the area where Sonic and Knuckles' paths converge, here. That door would still be closed if I hadn't died, and I wouldn't actually be able to get back into this area, and I would have had to go through Sonic's area to get to a boss fight. And that takes a lot longer. So we don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, one of the quirks about this game is that until recently there could have been a debate at least that it might have been worth taking Sonic's path as Knuckles, because the timer freezes for these boss fights that you see here as in Sonic's path, but in Knuckles' path you can see they're still going. But otherwise it's much slower because there's a cutscene that plays out that you don't have if you go this way. And there are a few techniques you can do against Big Arm to get more hits quicker. Even as Hyper, they're not necessarily easy, and you can, if you do get grabbed, you lose all your rings, which is not fun.
So that's a tiny little glitch there as well. You're not supposed to be able to hit that boss while it's underneath the floor, but if you roll and then jump out of that roll, you actually get pushed slightly into the ground, which just gives you enough to actually get the hit. Okay, and now Mushroom Hill. Mushroom Hill 1 has 5, and each character actually gets one right at the start. That's exclusive to Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So that's Knuckles' one. Now I'm going to go up and get Sonic's one.
Yeah, this
oh
is
no!
easier.
Oh no! Oh no! I may still be able to do it with these enemies. I can either die or I'll just... I'll go back the long way, it's fine.
Yeah. What he wanted to do there is a super glide. If he... in order to get the one that is at the beginning of each character's path, he has to get onto that. Either way, it involves a trick using enemies. It's a bit trickier as Sonic, because...
So you'd actually come back up there.
Yeah, there's no easy way to Knuckles' path from Sonic. And then he has to get back, and there's no easy way to die, so he has to do that trick to get back as Sonic. Whereas with Knuckles, he could have gotten up to that one much quicker, but at least since the Super Glide strategies failed, there is a backup.
That was a really sweet jump, actually.
Yeah, that was pretty slick.
I was pretty happy with that one too, to be honest. Yeah. As you'll notice, being super or hyper doesn't actually give Knuckles any extra jump height, and that's really important because it would actually completely break some level design if it did. Xenopolis 2 right near the end is something that jumps to mind, although you can break that design anyway. This stage has 6, and this is significantly easier with Knuckles actually than it is with Sonic and Tails. So like where with Knuckles in Launch Base, I was going through the stage and then back and then forward again. Being Sonic and Tails in this stage requires a kind of similar thing with the Knuckles quote-unquote exclusive large rings, but here you basically just get to make a straight shot through everything.
Yeah, the main issue for Sonic and Tails is that they're walls that are only breakable by Knuckles. And you can get past them, but it requires some glitches and shenanigans in order to do so. Whereas with Knuckles, it's a pretty straight shot through to get all of them.
Needed to slow down a little bit there before that spring, just to make sure I didn't go straight over it.
Yeah, he wants to go there because if he doesn't get bounced off that spring, there's a little bit of a recovery he would have needed to do to get back to that big ring.
So that's the only little bit of backtracking there. There's now 2 in this section that are supposed to be exclusive to Knuckles. You can get them with Sonic and Tails. It's quite difficult. They're some of the more difficult ones in the game to actually make your way to. Anyway, that's 5. Yeah. And the last one is just at the end.
Yeah, it would require sub-pixel perfect tricks, which isn't as bad as it sounds, because there's a quick setup for it. But it's still tricky, and then you would have to do a double spin dash, which is a trick you'll see him at least attempt later on in this run as well. And I'll explain that more when you get to it.
What am I doing?
Yeah, could have just walked into the boss and gotten an extra hit there, but...
Yeah, it was a bit of a slow boss overall.
It's not a huge deal, really.
Okay, this stage thankfully remains largely unchanged no matter what category you're doing. It's our favourite trick, we call it the As Intended.
Yep. It's also my favorite music in the game, both acts of Flying Battery.
Act 2, I got to play through the whole stage too, so you get to hear that quite a lot. Okay, so for this, what we're going to do is get as close to the zipline as possible, duck all the way down, try and spin dash without scrolling the screen back up, and pause at exactly the same time. If done correctly, like that, we then hold right, and you can see the screen kind of pans and removes that object. You'll actually see what I was talking about earlier here, where the game treats invincibility as a shield. So with Sonic, if you then grab this first ring, you can't transform, but with Knuckles you can, which is really silly. Also, I had the slope glitch on, so I had to stand on a sprite to cancel the slope glitch, so I could then climb up the wall. If you have the slope glitch on, you can't climb up walls. No.
Yeah, and you can use this glitch. In fact, all 3 characters use it to glitch all the way to the boss. I believe it's Knuckles specifically that has a faster way to get to the boss, but is much, much trickier.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So, just because it's so difficult, if you're going to see a run of Knuckles, it's probably going to use this trick, because once you learn it, this trick is pretty much free.
Flying Battery 2 also only has 2 in it. The path is the same with every character, so there's nothing special about this either. Until, as you say, I get to the end.
Yeah. Right now I'm in a Flying Battery 2 music is better than Act 1 phase, but that reverses every now and then. They're both awesome.
Ooh, that was close.
So yeah, there are a lot of crushers in this act. It's very easy to just get wrecked because you're unlucky or because you're over aggressive. Usually the latter.
Alright, so the first one's up here. You just have to know the path, that's all it is, because most of these paths are kind of one way. Like, if you commit to a path, then you're not going to be able to get back to a different one.
At least not easily. There are a few exceptions, but not many. and most of them involve glitches, of course. Like, if you're able to do a frame-perfect glide cancel as Knuckles, you can clip into a lot of objects as long as you have enough vertical speed.
Okay, so I'm going to
But
get
that's
crushed on
much-
purpose here.
Yeah, it's much easier said than done.
I'll explain why I did that in a sec. I might need to explain it to you as well, Alec. Because this is a bit weird. Oh, god damn it. Oh well, that was a waste of time. Basically, I'm convinced that Hyper Knuckles can't actually get through this.
Yeah.
And the reason is, it's hard to tell without having a side-by-side comparison, but it doesn't look like the camera actually pans as far. So what
Yeah.
the objective is here with this trick is you spin dash into the wall. You then do two further spin dashes. One pushes the object out of the way, and the third one passes you through it while it's off the screen.
And if you notice the screen panning over quickly, that's exactly why he was not wanting to be hyper for this fight.
Oh.
Because he and honestly, I am as well after looking at it, we're pretty sure that being hyper increases the speed of the scroll. So it might make that trick impossible or much more difficult. I always hesitate to say anything is impossible in this game, but it's at least doubtful, which is saying something. But basically, he would have been able to skip that laser boss as quickly as he was able to get those spin dashes like he was talking about. It's much easier said than done. It's actually pretty tricky, but it's consistent enough that you'll get it probably more often than not, I would say, after a little practice.
Yeah, unfortunately, transforming when I did also meant that I ran out of rings when I got when I got up to the top there. So I had to do that boss without hyper, which is still not difficult. You have to get hit in that specific way so that you're invincible when you move into the right position. Because he'll only swing up and down twice per cycle, as opposed to 4 times with Sonic or Tails. Xenopolis 1 is one of the trickier stages as well. It's even bigger than Marble Garden 1, actually. There are 7 large rings here. But getting to all of them is a little tricky with Knuckles.
This is one of the coolest stages in this category. Not so much in pretty much any other category, because it's either a boring level wrap, a dumb level wrap, or just kind of a vanilla stage. But in this category, you're going all over, doing all sorts of little tech to save time, and it's really cool as both Sonic and as Knuckles.
Okay, so there's one over there,
Yeah,
which I
you-
didn't forget. Good.
And UA, I am trying to read chat at least.
Yeah,
But yeah, that-
definitely faster to climb that wall than to use the sandfall there. It was nice to have a good side-by-side comparison for that. Okay, so now I've got to get up to the top again, and I have to make sure I'm in just the right spot, and then I start jumping as I hit the sand. So that's cool. Then there's this one. So this is meant to be only collected by Tails, because Tails can fly through there. But if you just get the timing on that just right, you can just grab the bottom of that wall.
Yeah, but speaking of this game, like I said, it's actually a game that I speedrun as Sonic now, so I'm hoping to have it good enough to offer for AGDQ this year, which would be awesome.
Okay, so that was 5, so now I go down, that's right. Oh, got lucky there. That that platform was in the right spot. If it's not, then you have to do a very tricky climb up the left-hand wall, which is tricky because you have to you have to do a frame perfect jump just as you get to the end, because the block that you'd normally push off that wall is right on the edge. So you have to make sure that you jump on the frame that you get put up to the top. There's a couple other instances where you need to do things like that. The last one in this stage, we've got 6 now. The last one is intended for Knuckles only, although Sonic and Tails can also get it. You have to go all the way up to the top of this wall and over to the left. Tails by himself can't get that. Even if you get a nice big jump and fly for 8 seconds, you don't get the height.
So boring boss. This one, the only way you can have it die is by having it jump itself or get knocked into the sand here. So he's just going to do that by the quickest way possible. There's nothing really that you can do to speed this up.
Yeah, it works out slightly faster to just let it jump until you get it right near the end. So for the last hit, you knock it in rather than wait for it to jump one extra time. But other than that,
there are technically changes to pretty much every boss except this one, so yeah, I would say so. But some of them are functionally not very different, at least as certain characters. Like, Insta-Shield actually makes some bosses faster if you're not super or hyper. But that's the magic of Insta-Shield, being able to hit a boss before its invincibility frames have run out.
oh yeah, that's right. I'm going to turn that off. Yeah, with Knuckles, the ghosts are out immediately, so always nice to get them out of the way.
Yeah, because in the in-game plot, canon, whatever you want to call it, yes, this game has one. This is happening after the Sonic/Tails arc in this game.
So there's 2 in the early part of this stage, which I'm getting the second one now, and then the other 2 aren't till the end. There's a nice skip you can do in the middle of the stage, which I'm hoping to be able to do.
Yeah, this is another level that wraps vertically. So he's able to despawn some of the different sprites, Gates being one of them, by scrolling them off the screen. Basically, whenever he scrolls the screen down, jumps off of it, the game goes down to try to catch up with him instead of up. So that allows for some interesting stuff. That clip is super easy. You just need to do a full height jump.
It's actually not. It's actually not as easy with Hyper because. Oh, nice first go there. Oh, no, screwed that up. Actually, that's fine. So I can just climb back up. And with Hyper Knuckles, climbing is a pretty easy time.
Yeah, that's the clip he does there is a subpixel. Well, it's dependent on position, which includes subpixels and velocity. Basically, what he's doing is he's entering that space in such a way that the game isn't sure whether it should put him above or below the stairs, and so it just kind of puts him in the stairs.
Okay, so this third one is on the Knuckles exclusive path, but as you saw earlier, it's very easy to just make any of these kind of blocks disappear, so it doesn't really matter. If you miss that though, there's pretty much no way back to it, so yeah, you have to be really careful and make sure you get it in one go. This is what I was talking about earlier. That section there, you're not meant to be able to get up here with Knuckles. The blocks kind of box you out, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, there are 2 ways. You can either do a spin dash jump, which is kind of precise, but it's not terrible once you get the hang of it, or you can do a perfect spin dash from high enough up the slope. The spin dash jump is easier and more consistent, because the perfect spin dash is a frame perfect trick.
Oh, I nearly got a no music boss fight too.
Yeah, you can glitch out the music on that boss if you get the first hit quick enough.
Okay, so this one has 3, and they're all in Sonic's area. Again, Sonic and Knuckles have completely different paths. However, it is intended that there is a direct line straight to Sonic's path. All you have to do is make that boss disappear and then go back past it, and this puts you about 30 seconds into Sonic's path. Which makes getting, or at least the first 2, trivial. The third one is quite interesting. There's a couple of different ways you can get at it. So So the first 2 are like 5 seconds away from each other, because why not? And then the third one isn't far off either. Now, I'll just quickly show you what you've got to do to get it. So over here, there's a hole in the ceiling here, and only Tails can get all the way, or is supposed to be able to get all the way up there. Hypersonic can actually get up there if you angle a jump properly, but with Knuckles, we got to do something a little bit different.
Yeah, you remember us talking about stair clips, and he did one earlier in Sandopolis too? He has to do another one here. And like I said, it's basically approaching that stair with the correct angle that the game doesn't know whether it should put him on top of it or have him bounce off of it, and at such speed that the game doesn't really have time to decide. So the game just gives up, basically, and puts him inside the stair, which allows him to then zip, of course.
There it is.
Zipping, by the way, is a very common mechanic in 2D platformers. Basically, it's a way to prevent you from getting stuck in walls. But once you are stuck in a wall, you can often use it in different ways. In Freedom Planet, which is the main game for this marathon effectively, given who we're running for, tends to shoot you up, but in Sonic games, it shoots you very quickly in the opposite direction that you press. So if you press right, you get sent very quickly left, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's like either 16 or 32 pixels a frame, and your base spin dash speed is 12. Okay, I gotta get 2 on the one on the left. The game doesn't mind if Knuckles is just standing there, if he's hyper. It'll happily not crush you, and you'll get the maximum amount of hits. Normally you can only get 3 at a time, but that lets you get 4. I'm going to grab the fire shield here, and there's one little extra piece of shenanigans we've got to do here. So this is the final stage with large rings in it, because the next stage is Hidden Palace, and by then the kind of story arc of the game is complete, if you like. So this is the last stage with any large rings in it.
Yeah, as either character. There aren't any in Death Egg or Sky Sanctuary. So the last one here is the last one, period. But there are 2 different paths here. There's this Knuckles path, and then there's Sonic's path. And they do have exclusive, at least intended as exclusive, big rings in each of them.
Yeah, okay, so there's one here. I can't really get back to Sonic's path from here, so I'm going to die and go right back to the start. And this is where things get interesting again. Okay, so I'm watching the middle one of these 3 platforms. As it moves back to the right, time a super glide. Because the damage of that Robotnik box doesn't take effect until a little way after you actually hit it, it means you can do what I just did.
Yeah, so now he's in Sonic's path, which is supposed to be impossible for Knuckles, but obviously isn't. And there are a couple ones here that he's going to get. That was just the first one, and very shortly, at least from my perspective, yep, he would have already got it. As I was saying that.
that jump is actually quite tricky. The one where you...
Knuckles has a shorter jump than the other two characters, so it makes a lot of things pretty tricky. And it's something that they did intentionally to try to separate Knuckles' paths from the ones that Sonic and Tails would take.
I don't know why I didn't just do that in the first place. 76.
There are 77 total big rings in this game, by the way.
And the
So
last
that means
one
there's only
is
one to go.
right here.
That's the one that trolls any percent runs every now and then.
Okay. So, one last little bit of shenanigans here. We've got to be a little bit careful about how we approach this. You're probably thinking, why don't you just climb up that wall? The reason you don't just climb up that wall is one tile from the top, it'll actually stop you. Yeah, it'd stop you on the tile just below that. Like, oh, great, I'm dead. I don't know why I didn't get a jump out there, that was strange. Thankfully, I hit that checkpoint. I've missed that checkpoint before, and it means that you have to play the whole stage again. It's kind of sad. Well, that's a real shame, because I'm like a minute away from being finished, too.
Yeah, so Knuckles is supposed to be entering this general area in terms of, like, horizontal coordinates at least, from a much higher place. There's a tube up top that he normally enters it through. And in order to get up to where Knuckles is supposed to finish the stage, you have to get up here, which is not designed for Knuckles. So it complicates things a little bit. But now he's out of Lava Reef. Hidden Palace is the easiest stage in the game as Knuckles.
Ah, I didn't get it.
Oh, no, not quite. 9 seconds. And then, I'm guessing you're going for, yeah, you didn't get, he was going for a glitch here, which can cause this final boss to do something rather interesting. It costs a lot of time, but it is amusing. If he does not touch the ground at the start of the fight before he gets grabbed, then the boss...
Yeah. Okay. I've got no rings for the second half. That's going to be a little interesting, but... as long as I don't get surprised when he dives at me, because I'm sure he'll dive at me.
Yeah. Basically, this last bit, the final part of this final boss is actually random. So he can do one of two attacks. He can shoot balls of energy at you, or he can dive at you. Balls of energy are what you want because that's what makes him vulnerable.
It's actually pretty much the only random instance in the entire game, by the way. Whoa, there's the dive.
Yeah, there's stuff that is functionally random because you just don't have that much control over things as a human being. But in terms of actual randomness, this boss is pretty much it.
And time when the screen fades to white, which is now.
GG.
103.05.
103, yeah, it's about what I expected.
Not bad for a marathon run.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, yes. So, Alec, you're running later, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm running Sonic 2 tomorrow, and there's actually a bid war for which character I'm going to run the game as. So if you'd rather see me run as Sonic, or if you'd rather see me run as Add Knuckles, get your dollars in, because that's going to decide it.
Please donate for Sonic. I can't find the ampersand on this keyboard.
But yeah, thanks for having me around, and I will see all of you guys, well, in chat for a bit more tonight, and then tomorrow for the run.
No worries, Alec. Thanks for your help.
And thanks both of you for your time. I've just woken up, as you might be able to tell. Haha.
Shh. Don't worry. Nobody will know.
I'm gonna cut to an intermission.